Hi again everyone. In this video we're going to talk about some more complex flows. So far we've just been using manually injecting information and outputting it in a standard way. However, here we're actually going to make a basic web interface. So what you're going to want to do is come over to the palette on the left and scroll down to network. We're going to want HTTP in and HTTP response. Another way of seeing these is if you come up here and type anything in, it will actually filter anything that just has whatever you're typing in. So rather than doing it the way that we were before, we will click and drag this, and we will click and drag the response. So when we double click here, we're going to see we have a few different options. So there's get and post and put and delete and patch. We'll just use get for now. And we can choose a URL. So let's say we're going to do /test, for example. And if we click done, then that's going to be a get and a test. Something that I've not mentioned yet is that you can actually change the name that's being displayed here by saying something else. So if I say test HTTP request, whatever name I put here is going to appear as the label of this. Similarly, if you want to put comments in that are their own block, you can click up here in the comment section. And you can just say, this is a comment. So that will just appear there. But then also you can comment in here too. But whatever you're commenting in there will not be visible immediately. So you can say further explanation in here or something. And have that further information there. But seeing as most comments tend to be quite short, just using the name function for that is fine. And comments, of course, because they're not performing any function on the flow, don't really have any inputs and outputs. So we have our test HTTP request on the /test domain, so we might actually call that /test HTTP request. And then this is a HTTP response node. So what this is going to do is going to give some information back to the HTTP request. So what we might do here is we can say we've got some information coming in, and we will want to change some properties of this. So set the payload and then return it. So this is the change function. If I double click here, you can see we can set the payload of this particular thing coming in to whatever we want. So I might set the payload to say hello, maybe hello HTTP, done. So the information is going to come in from here, flow through. This will set the message's payload to hello HTTP, and then it will come out here to the HTTP response. So if we go over to the information, you can see here that the payload is the body of the response. We can also use status codes and headers, but that's not super useful. I'll actually select these because I didn't have this open before. So you can see this is a HTTP endpoint. So what this means is we're going to actually open up in another window and access Node-RED in a different kind of way. So I'll pull this out over here. And so it's probably easiest just to run it first. So seeing as we're not using these anymore, we can just delete them. And now if we deploy, so that's successfully deployed. So this will activate and trigger when I access this with a /test at the end. So if I copy this over here and then say test, when I hit enter, yes. So what has happened here is when I've gone to this web address /test as I was expecting, it's activated this, sent information in to the change block. The change block has changed the payload property to say hello HTTP, and then that information has come back out here, and that's been returned because that was the payload. And as I said, we can change characteristics of this, so by default it's returning it, but if you're familiar with HTTP status codes, you might say a 404 if the particular service that you're trying to access is not available. So there's all sorts of things that you can do here. So imagine that this debug node is maybe turning a light switch on and off or something, rather than just a payload that's going to be on the debug menu. So what that means is, if I deploy this again, then whenever I access this page, you will see here on the debug window that it's going to output the same thing as the website does. So if I hit enter now again, then it's returned the hello HTTP in the browser, which is the information, but then it's also debugged it down here. So seeing as we've accessed this over the internet, we can pass that information in locally, or we can output it in different ways. And so if you're making a web interface for what you're doing that can potentially connect to other services, this is a really neat way of doing everything. So if you're running this on a Raspberry Pi or something like that, you can make a web request to the Pi, and then you can change different output pins, turn lights on and off, all these different kinds of things. So that's it for web interfaces, and I'll see you in the next video.